Gu Beizhao deliberately chose the day I left for Hong Kong to study as the date for his engagement to his beloved. He said to his fiancée, Nanine is unruly, and you have a gentle nature. From now on, let her stay in Hong Kong and never allow her to come back. My friends were all worried, afraid that once I found out, I would rush back to Beijing overnight, crying and making a scene, but they don't know, I won't throw a tantrum, nor will I ever go back. Before heading to Hong Kong, I accepted someone's marriage proposal. In just half a month, I'll be getting married. Before the wedding, I sent back all the gifts Gu Beizhao had given me over the past 10 years to the capital, including that ring I once treasured like a precious gem. From now on, our paths diverge in life's vast north and south. You head to the misty rivers of Xiaoxiang, while I journey toward the rugged lands of Qin Wan. The last time I confessed my feelings to Gu Beizhao, I ended up embarrassing myself. The private room was packed with people, but there was dead silence, with no one uttering a word. A full few minutes passed. Xianxiang, who was sitting beside him, stood up to smooth things over. All right, Beizhao, you're making Yining feel really embarrassed. She's just a kid, someone in the corner sneered. A 21-year-old kid. Tisk. Peals of laughter rose and fell, gradually merging into one continuous wave. I stood my ground stubbornly, refusing to flee in disgrace, but the gaze fixed on Gu Beizhao gradually blurred. Nanine, how much uglier do you want me to make this? Gu Beizhao flicked the ash off his cigarette and stood up. I've made it clear to you since you were 16 that I'm not interested. I couldn't help choking up, but I was in a puppy love back then, and you were clearly furious. That's because you're the adopted daughter of the Gu family. One wrong step from you, and it's the Gu family's face that will be lost. What about that kiss on my 18th birthday, Gu? Beizhao looked into my eyes, a faint trace of disgust flickering in his gaze. Nanine, you were so drunk that night, you caused absolute chaos. I just wanted to end this farce as quickly as possible. I suddenly burst into laughter, but even as I laughed, the tears fell even harder. Gu Beizhao, you've had 4 girlfriends, but every time, all I had to do was throw a tantrum and you'd break up with them after all these years. Do you really dare to say you've never liked me at all? That's because I haven't met a woman I truly love. Gu Beizhao reached out and pulled Xianxiang into his arms. Nanine, listen carefully, I'm only saying this one last time. I like Xianxiang, and I'm going to marry her. Your little tricks from before won't work at all this time. Xianxiang's face was full of shy joy and adoration as she gazed at him. Beizhao. Gu Beizhao didn't hesitate. He lowered his head and kissed her. Xianxiang wrapped her arms around his neck, rising on her tiptoes to respond. They kissed lingeringly, passionately, as if no one else existed, but in that moment, all I could think of was that kiss at 18, just as lingering and enduring, so much so that I stayed in a dream for 4 years without waking up, naively thought that he actually liked me too. Gu Beizhao moved out of the Gu family's old mansion and moved in with Xianxiang. The day he moved out, I was at school busy with my graduation defense. Choosing a day like this is probably to keep me from causing trouble. But this time, I didn't act the way I used to. Immediately ran to Gu Beizhao, crying and making a scene. Just after a faint ripple stirred in the depths of my heart, he immediately shook his head and cast it all aside. Tonight, I had a graduation dinner with a few close classmates. On my way to the restroom, I ran into Xianxiang. Nanine, Beizhao is here too. Do you want to come over? I shook my head. I've already made plans with a classmate, so I'll pass. Xianxiang's eyes suddenly reddened. Nanine, I come from a humble background. Uncle and Aunt Gu never liked me to begin with. Can you please stop talking behind my back in front of them? I was both surprised and shocked. Miss Shin, I have never mentioned you in front of my elders. Xianxiang gave a bitter smile. I know you've liked Beizhao for many years. I understand that you can't accept me being with him right now, but Nanine, we're all girls here. It's better to be kind in how we treat others, don't you think? I take after my mom, straightforward and incapable of scheming. Hearing this, he immediately became agitated. Xianxiang, stop spouting nonsense and slandering me here. Before she could finish speaking, Xianxiang's legs gave way and she dropped straight to her knees. Nanine, I'm begging you. Startled, I stepped forward to help her up, but before I could even touch her, she hit the ground hard. Nanine, what are you doing? When Gu Beizhao's furious voice rang out, an extremely heavy force came. Along with it, I was shoved hard, and my knee slammed right into the edge of the wall. It hurts like hell. 3. Beizhao, don't misunderstand. Nanine didn't mean it. You're still taking her side. I've seen enough of her tricks since I was a kid. Gu Beizhao bent down and lifted Xianxiang into his arms. He stared at me coldly, his eyes blazing with fury. Nanine, apologize. Gu Beizhao, shut up and apologize. Xianxiang curled up in his arms, crying softly, looking pitiful and vulnerable. My knee is bleeding, blood trickled down the calf, winding its way to the ankle, those two glaring streaks of blood, but Gu Beizhao acted as if he hadn't seen them at all, the way he looked at me, as if I were a heinous villain. I suddenly let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh, unwilling to argue a single word. I apologize. Gu Beizhao seemed to freeze for a moment, but then a deeper malice flickered in his eyes. Not enough. I straightened up and bowed deeply. Is this enough? Xinxiang looked at me, the corners of her lips curving slightly, but she quickly turned to Gu Beizhao, sobbing softly as she coaxed, "Forget it, Beizhao, how could I possibly deserve this?" Gu Beizhao's heart ached instantly. "Nanine, I've told you before, Xinxiang is different from others. Bullying her won't make me break up with her, it will only make me care for her more and despise you even further." He held Xinxiang in his arms and turned to leave. I stood there in a daze for a very long time, the wound on my knee hurts terribly, yet my heart feels so empty and light. I know, in that fleeting moment, all those so-called obsessions and infatuations vanished, all turned to dust, completely vanished, for, that night, Xinxiang posted 3 updates on her moments in a row. Someone in the circle with ulterior motives took a screenshot and sent it to me, especially Gu Beizhao's reply was singled out. I know deep down they were hoping to see me make a fool of myself. I used to always rush to Gu Beizhao in a fit of impulse, crying and making a scene. He was impatient, yet he always gave in every time. It undoubtedly gave me the illusion that he cared about me. It also made me stronger with every setback, but this time, I ignored it. Instead, he dialed a number from a call made 7 days ago. "Aunt Zhou, it's Nanine. I've thought over what you mentioned the other day. I lost both my parents in an accident when I was 7. Uncle Gu and my father were on good terms, so he took me in on his own accord. Aunt Zhou was my mother's best friend from her youth, but later she eloped with her lover and cut off all contact. After drifting through half her life, she finally settled down in Hong Kong. Both of my parents have passed away. Aunt Zhou wants me to move to Hong Kong. She also wanted to fulfill the promise she made with my mother when they were young, let me marry into the Qin family in Hong Kong and become her daughter-in-law. 7 days ago, I said no, but afraid of hurting her feelings. He simply said he would think about it, but just tonight, I suddenly let go of the obsession I've held on to all these years. A one-sided love is too foolish and laughable. I don't want to be the laughingstock of the circle anymore. 6 months ago, Gu Beizhao arranged for me to continue my studies in Hong Kong. I refused at the time and cried my eyes out several times, but he never gave in. But now I see it as a pretty good opportunity. Perhaps it was fate's design all along. On the other end of the phone, Aunt Zhou laughed with sheer delight. "Yanine, your brother Yan Zhou is just waiting for you to say yes. He's ready to fly to Beijing to propose to you." I clutched my phone, my cheeks inexplicably warm, yet the sound of laughter reaching my ears left me inexplicably dazed. The person I've lived with for 15 years and loved for 7, it turns out that letting go completely only takes a mere 7 days. 5. The day of Gu Beizhao and Xinxiang's engagement. I deliberately chose the day I went to Hong Kong City, so not many people came to see me off. I turned on my phone as I got off the plane. Information keeps pouring in. Most of it is related to Gu Beizhao and Xinxiang's engagement. I just laughed it off. I've deleted and blocked all contact information for those people. Before coming to Hong Kong City, I met with Qin Yanzhou. I don't want to cause any unnecessary trouble, nor do I want to make a fuss. Qin Yanzhou respected my wishes. He proposed, and we exchanged rings. And just like that, they got engaged quietly. It's just that there's an extra 100 million in my account as a betrothal gift. A plain band ring now adorned her middle finger. Just as I was about to get into the car that the Qin family had sent to pick me up, my phone suddenly rang. It was Gu Beizhao's cousin, Gu Yunhe, who called. "Yanine, my brother's engagement ceremony is about to start. Where are you?" "I just arrived in Hong Kong." "Then hurry back now. It's not too late yet. What's the point of going back?" I asked calmly. Gu Yunhe was taken aback. "Yanine, are you so heartbroken that you've lost your mind? If you don't come back and make a scene, my brother will really end up with someone else." "Why would I go back and make a scene? Isn't this your brother's happy occasion?" Southern music. Gu Yunhe's voice suddenly rose. "Are you out of your mind?" I was about to hang up when the voice in my ear turned back into Xinxiang's. "Yanine, aren't you coming to my engagement party with Beizhao? After all, Beizhao sees you as a little sister, so that makes me your sister-in-law. I'd really like to have your blessing." I gazed at Qin Yanzhou, who was not far away. He stood by the car, tall and graceful, with a gentle look in his eyes. My heart suddenly calmed down as well. Fine then, I wish you two a lifetime of happiness, locked together forever. 6. Gu Beizhao stood in the garden smoking with a few friends. However, every now and then, he would glance at Gu Yunhe and the others not far away. He knew that these people were tipping off Nanning again. Just like countless times before, whenever a woman appears by his side, those women will immediately tell Nanning. Then Nanning would come running to him, crying and throwing a tantrum. He hated it most when women acted like that, found it annoying, so he just went ahead and kicked those female companions out. And this time, it's probably the same, so he deliberately chose the day when Nanning was heading to Hong Kong. Unfortunately, the auspicious time calculated for the engagement ceremony falls at 6. In the evening, Gu Beizhao found it quite a headache. After all, Nanning got the news and immediately flew back, just in time for the engagement ceremony to start. Beizhao, what if Nanning comes back to make a scene with you? Yeah, if you get engaged to someone else, I'd say she'll probably lose it, but she's been pretty quiet lately, hasn't she? You and Xinxiang are practically joined at the hip, and she hasn't made a single move yet. In the old days, I would have already cried a river. Long ash had formed on the cigarette held between Gu Beizhao's fingers. He forgot to dust. All that filled my mind were my friend's last two sentences. Nanning has been unusually quiet lately, so quiet that it's almost strange, but from what he knew of her, she was definitely not that kind of person. He has rejected her so many times, from childhood to adulthood, but she always grows stronger in the face of adversity and never once thought of backing down. Now that I'm older, I can keep my composure better than when I was a child. Gu Beizhao suddenly thought of something. He let out a faint scoff and stubbed out the cigarette. Just wait and see. She's never one to stay out of trouble. Beizhao, are you saying Nanning will come back to cause trouble? Gu Beizhao didn't respond yet. Deep down, I was utterly certain. She has been boy crazy since she was a little girl. I was utterly consumed by romance novels during my adolescence. Those absurd tricks were played on him day after day. He naturally knows. These days, and Xing's peace is nothing more than retreating in order to advance. He could swear that it would happen no later than the start of the engagement ceremony. Nanning will then emerge. Tell security to keep a close watch later. Gu Beizhao glanced at his watch and said, "Don't let any troublemakers in." The moment he finished speaking, Gu Yunhe came running over in big strides, holding up her skirt. "Cousin, it's Nanning." "Nanning is here. The car's already at the door." Gu Beizhao felt an inexplicable surge of joy, but then his face darkened. "Nonsense, I think she's just incorrigible. Bro, what do we do now? If she kicks up a fuss, the Gu family will lose face." Gu Beizhao's face turned cold as he turned and strode out. "Let me go see what tricks she can pull." 7. The whole group followed Gu Beizhao as they walked outside, but just as he stepped out of the garden, Xinxiang softly called him back. "Beizhao." Xinxiang wore a stunning silk satin dress. Her hair was braided beautifully, and her makeup was very light. The engagement ceremony is at 6 o'clock, a few hours left. Xinxiang was anxious inside, but not a trace of it showed on her face. "What are you doing here?" Gu Beizhao stopped in his tracks. His gaze fell on Xinxiang's face. Xinxiang is very beautiful. It is the kind of beauty that easily stirs a man's desire to cherish and protect, unlike Nanning's mischievousness, due to her humble origins. Xinxiang had a somewhat timid and submissive nature, always speaks in a soft, gentle voice. The time when I met Xinxiang, he's getting a headache from all that Nanning music. It was all too easy to be drawn in by Xinxiang's gentle and serene demeanor. What's more, unlike the previous partners who had actively thrown themselves at me, his acquaintance with Xinxiang began with a classic case of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Men always have that hero complex, so his feelings for Xinxiang were quite different from those for his previous flings. "I heard that Yining is back." Before Xiang could finish her words, her eyes reddened. "I'm a bit worried." Xinxiang bit her lip and lowered her head. "Beizhao, do you think we might not be able to complete the engagement ceremony today? What are you thinking about?" Gu Beizhao raised his hand, gently grasping Xinxiang's shoulder and patting it softly. "Don't worry, I'm on my way to handle it." Xinxiang, however, reached out and grabbed Gu Beizhao's sleeve. "Beizhao, I'm scared." "I'm afraid you'll go with her." Tears streamed down Xinxiang's face. Frail and petite, she stood there as if she might shatter at any moment. "How could that be, Sister Xinxiang? My brother doesn't even like Nanning." A glint of exhilaration flickered in Gu Yunhe's eyes as she smiled. "She's bossy and bratty, always throwing tantrums and making a scene. My brother is so sick of her. How could he possibly go with her? She really doesn't like Nanning." Since Nanning was adopted by the Gu family, her uncle and aunt, who had originally doted on her, now placed Nanning ahead of her. Although the underlying implication was that Nanning was an adopted daughter, the Gu family had to treat her even better to uphold their reputation and save face. But Gu Yunhe still hated Nanning, so over the years, her favorite pastime has been watching Nanning embarrass herself and make a fool of herself. Now that Nanning has been sent off to study in Hong Kong, only a few people from the Gu family came to see her off. She had even packed all her luggage and sent it ahead to Hong Kong City as early as half a month ago. As if afraid that Nanning would stubbornly refuse to leave, Gu Yunhe felt an indescribable sense of relief and joy. She would support anyone as her cousin's wife, as long as it's not Nanning. 8. Gu Beijiao suddenly turned to Gu Yunhe and said, "Aren't you usually on good terms with Nanning? How could I possibly be on good terms with her? I absolutely can't stand her." Now that everything has settled, Gu Yunhe doesn't want to pretend at all. He used to deliberately get close to Nanning. All he wanted was to earn her trust so she would obediently listen to him, go make trouble, do all sorts of annoying things. Now I don't have to pretend anymore. What a relief. Therefore, Gu Yunhe did not notice the subtle change in Gu Beijiao's expression. He kept talking to himself. "Bro, how about this? You stay with sister-in-law, and I'll go deal with Nanning. Don't worry. I'll make sure she's thoroughly humiliated." "How do you plan to humiliate her? Have the bodyguards throw her out? She showed up to cause trouble at someone else's engagement party. If word gets out, her parents would be rolling in their graves." Gu Beijiao suddenly raised his hand. A crisp slap echoed through the air. Everyone was stunned, especially Xinxiang. She furrowed her brows tightly as he looked into Gu Beijiao's eyes. They gradually darkened with gloom. "Bro, why did you hit me?" Gu Yunhe immediately covered her face and burst into tears, looking utterly wronged. "After all, Nanning is my nominal sister. You should call her big sister too." Gu Beijiao's face was indescribably grim. "She's been a foster daughter of the Gu family for over a decade." "Gu Yunhe, do you think humiliating her brings any honor to the Gu family? Why are you taking her side? You clearly hate her, don't you?" Gu Yunhe cried with great grievance. "If it weren't for the fact that you dislike her, how would we dare to say such things?" Gu Beijiao stood there, silent for a long time. He really is averse to Nanning, as they say, but clearly, when Nanning first arrived at the Gu family, their relationship is the best. Nanning fell and got hurt. He comforted her until she stopped crying, then carried her home on his back. When Nanning was being bullied at school, he was the first to rush over and stand up for her. He even bought her sanitary pads when she had her first period. Nanning has relied on him since childhood. As she grew older, her possessiveness over him became extreme. He clearly enjoyed Nanning clinging to him at first. When did it start to change? A sudden sense of emptiness washed over Gu Beijiao's heart. Xinxiang's sobbing suddenly pulled his thoughts back to reality. Yes, it was Nanning that changed first. As she grew up, it was because of her family's indulgence. Too unruly in nature, spoiled and domineering, he is not allowed to get close to anyone of the opposite sex. She gets jealous and throws a tantrum at the slightest thing, so he grew increasingly annoyed and distanced himself from her. He ignored her tearful pleas and insisted on sending her alone to study in Hong Kong. He did this. "I just wanted Nanning to be a bit more sensible and mature. Once she learns her lesson, he will naturally come to bring her back." The bond they've shared over all these years, how could he ever bring himself to leave her alone in a strange city? 9. But as it now appears, she still hasn't learned her lesson. To dare to act like this on such a joyous occasion, continue to be willful and reckless. She really has some nerve. She just arrived and made the Gu family a complete mess. Gu Beijiao reached out and pulled Xinxiang into his arms. "Go wash your face first, and then let the makeup artist redo your makeup. I'll come find you once I've sorted out Nanning's matter. The engagement ceremony will proceed on time, rest assured." Gu Beijiao wiped Xinxiang's tears away before turning and leaving. Xinxiang stood still, watching Gu Beijiao's retreating figure. For some reason, she still felt an inexplicable unease deep in her heart. Gu Yunhe's questioning just now was very reasonable. Everyone knows how much he detests Nanning, yet he slapped his own cousin across the face just because of a few words from Gu Yunhe. Does he really hate Nanning? Or perhaps, deep down in his heart, Nanning was always different after all. 10. As Gu Beijiao approached the main entrance, no sign of Nanning, but her pink Mini was sitting there quietly. Standing by the car, however, was her best friend, Tanning. Gu Beijiao's steps suddenly halted. My heart felt as if something was gently tugging at it, sinking slightly. Only then did he remember. Before leaving Beijing, Nanning gave this card to Tanning. Tanning walked over to him immediately upon seeing him. Gu Beijiao saw that she was holding a red envelope in her hand. Tanying's face remained expressionless as she cut straight to the point. "Yining asked me to give you and Xinxiang this red envelope." Gu Beizhao did not reach out to take it. Tanning frowned slightly. There's one more thing. Go ahead. Yining left in a hurry back then, and never really had a chance to see you. I've called you several times, but you didn't pick up, so I never got the chance to ask you for it back. She gave you an antique brooch for your birthday before. That was a token of love her mother gave to her father. Tanning gave a mocking smile. Yining said this brooch is meant for her future husband. Staying here with you now is just too inappropriate, Mr. Gu. Could you give me the brooch? I'll take it to Yining when I visit her in Hong Kong. Gu Beizhao suddenly lowered his eyes. Her gaze fell upon the lustrous blue at her chest. This morning, when he was changing clothes, he somehow ended up choosing the sapphire brooch. Actually, it doesn't quite match his formal attire, but he didn't change it. But now, looking at this brooch again, it only feels dazzling to the eyes. For your future husband. Gu Beizhao didn't know why, but just the thought of Nanning possibly marrying someone in the future made him uneasy. I have a husband to share my bed with. A wave of discomfort surged within him. She likes him so much. How could she marry another man? Now she doesn't come herself. Let Tanning come to ask for the brooch. Quite clever, after all. Her move had truly unsettled him. 11. Mr. Gu, go tell Nanning. A gift once given cannot be taken back. Of course, if she's dead set on having it, then let her come talk to me herself. With that, Gu Beizhao turned and was about to leave. Tanning hurriedly called out to stop him. Mr. Gu, please hold on a moment. I'll have Nanning speak with you directly. That's a joke. Nanning is getting married. How could a brooch of such special significance be left with another man? Yining had reminded her several times. Make sure she brings the brooch when she comes to her wedding. On her wedding day, she personally pinned it onto her husband's chest. Over the years, Tanning had long grown tired of Gu Beizhao, but Nanning is stubbornly single-minded, a fool at heart. After being strung along for so many years, I was just kicked to the curb. Tanning was so furious at the thought of it that she wanted to slap Gu Beizhao to death. Fortunately, she has finally come to terms with it, and she found such a good man again. Tanning was genuinely happy for her. This trip must, of course, live up to its mission. 12. When I got the call from Tanning, the car was almost at the Qin family's house. Ying, what's wrong? Yining, I did what you said and went to Gu Beizhao to ask for the brooch, but he wouldn't give it to me. He even said, if you insist, go talk to him yourself. I instinctively glanced at Qin Yanzhou beside me. I feel inexplicably guilty. He and I are still strangers to each other. Even though he appears polite and gentle, yet the aura around him was still too powerful to be ignored. He just took a work call in the car, fluent switching between English, French, and Cantonese, issued commands with crisp decisiveness, that natural air of authority. It makes me look young and inexperienced. Actually, I'm not a quiet person by nature, but in front of Qin Yanzhou, she inexplicably started acting like a proper lady. I haven't had a chance to talk to Tanning yet. The voice on the other end of the line had already become Gu Beizhao's. Nanning, do you want the brooch, or are you just trying to cause trouble? I was stunned for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. If you're trying to disrupt my engagement ceremony with Shinxiang, I'd advise you not to waste your efforts. If you want the brooch back, then take it the same way you gave it to me. After all, something so precious shouldn't be handled by anyone else. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone calm. Tanning is my best friend. Just give it to her. I will bear all the consequences. Gu Beizhao let out a laugh. Nanning, how many times do I have to spell it out for you? Give it back to me the same way you gave it to me in the first place. The phone was hung up directly. I was both angry and humiliated, my face gradually flushing bright red. How did you give him that brooch? It was the night of my 18th birthday. Gu Beizhao, we're both drunk in my bedroom on the 3rd floor of the Gu family's old mansion. He pressed me against the door and kissed me deeply. By the end of the kiss, I could barely stand, and he was clearly deeply aroused, but in the end, I restrained myself and stopped. I called out to him just as he was about to leave. She pressed the brooch into his hand. I told him the meaning behind this brooch. He didn't say a word, but he took it. That's why I thought he had tacitly allowed and accepted my feelings. These past few years have felt like a terrible dream. Now that the dream is over, I just want to make a clean break with everything from the past. I thought Gu Beizhao would be more than willing. He will return the brooch to me as if throwing away trash. But I never expected him to say that. It was only at this moment that I realized it belatedly. The reckoning for youthful folly always comes due one day. If this brooch didn't carry that meaning, I will never take it back. But now I am getting married. It's unfair to Qin Yanzhou for the brooch to remain with Gu Beizhao. 13. Is something wrong? Qin Yanzhou's voice suddenly rang out. I instinctively looked up. Her gaze met the depths of his eyes, the emotions deep inside her, an indescribable embarrassment. I don't want to hide it yet. Because of the distance between us now, I find it hard to bring myself to say it. No, I ended up shaking my head. After all, I was thinking to myself, I might as well ask Uncle Gu for help. I need to get my stuff back too. Having made up my mind, I gradually began to relax. It's really nothing, just a small matter concerning Uncle Gu's family. I put on a relaxed look and smiled at Qin Yanzhou. I can handle it. Qin Yanzhou did not press further, just nodded slightly. All right, if anything tricky comes up, Yining, you can reach me anytime. After all, you're my fiancé now. He naturally followed Aunt Zhou's lead and called me that, even though it's not the first time, but my ears were still slightly red, especially when he mentioned the word fiancé. Even the back of her neck began to burn hot. I'm already engaged. In just half a month, I will marry him. A bittersweet ache tangled in my heart, faint, yet tinged with a subtle sense of anticipation and joy. I didn't dare to meet his eyes. She shot him a quick glance, then nodded and let out a soft hum. Qin Yanzhou didn't say anything more. The car arrived at the Qin family's residence. The car door opened, and he got out first, then he turned around to help me up. I saw the engagement ring on his middle finger. Ever since I put it on that day, he never seemed to take it off again. Qin Yanzhou helped me out of the car. I got out of the car, but he still didn't let go of my hand. Instead, she naturally took my hand. I felt a bit awkward at first, but his palm was warm and dry. His fingers, long and strong, held mine. My heart suddenly settled down, as if this is just how we should be. From a distance, Aunt Zhou saw us walking hand in hand. She smiled with relief immediately. Before we could even get close, Aunt Zhou quickly came over to greet me. She threw her arms around me, tears streaming down her face. Yining, you look just like your mother when she was young. My tears broke through the dam in an instant. She smelled really nice, just like my mom's scent in my fading memory. Qin Yanzhou stood by the side, shaking his head with a hint of helplessness. He then grabbed some tissues and handed them to us. Auntie, you and Yining are crying with your heads buried in each other's arms like this. Anyone who didn't know better would think my dad and I were the ones bullying you. Aunt Zhou married Qin Yanzhou's father when she was 40. She never had children in her lifetime. Treat these non-biological children as if they were their own. Qin Yanzhou has always treated her with great respect. I've known these things for a long time. So it has always been. I really can't understand why Qin Yanzhou agreed to this verbal marriage engagement. After all, the whole matter had nothing to do with him, but Aunt Zhou just told me not to worry, said that I would naturally know the reason in the future. I didn't press further. Auntie Zhou chuckled at that and wiped away my tears. Only then did she tightly grasp my hand and say, Yining, let's go home with Auntie. I instinctively looked at Qin Yanzhou. He is also looking at me. Behind him, lush green trees stood in dense clusters, their verdant hues almost dripping with life. When I looked over, Qin Yanzhou's eyes were already filled with a gentle smile. He also reached out his hand to me. Yining, we're going home. 20 minutes to 6. Xinxiang had already completed all the makeup and styling, but Gu Beizhao hasn't come out of the upstairs lounge yet. Xinxiang hesitated for a moment, but still walked over. The door to the lounge was unlocked. Faint voices of conversation could be heard. Xinxiang quietly approached. Beizhao, is Nanning sure she's not coming back? If they were going to come back, they'd have done it long ago. Even a rocket couldn't get them here in time now. Beizhao, I've actually wanted to ask you this for a long time. Are you really completely indifferent to Nanning? You grew up together. She's beautiful and innocent, and her whole world revolves around you. Xinxiang instinctively held her breath. There was silence inside the door for quite a while. Gu Beizhao's voice finally sounded slowly. I don't feel anything. Would you have feelings for a young girl? Gu Beizhao let out a sneer. He was 5 years older than Nanning. Nanning had just started elementary school when she arrived at the Gu family. Even later, as Nanning grew up, she blossomed into a beautiful young woman. For some reason, Gu Beizhao found himself thinking back to the night of her 18th birthday. He must be possessed. Only then, dizzy and spellbound by her allure, did he kiss her. She also accepted that brooch, but Nanning is really beautiful now. Yeah, a bunch of my buddies have a thing for her. Remember that horse race meeting last year? Of course I remember. She wore a red riding outfit and won the championship. I can still picture her standing on the podium, taking off her hat with the brightest smile. Gu Beizhao naturally remembered. He still remembered that day. Nanning was overjoyed. She chattered non-stop while pulling him along, showing off her trophy and pony to him. She kept rambling on about how handsome the guest of honor at the awards ceremony was that day, but her mind was full of him, so she stole a glance. A faint smile curled at the corner of Gu Beijiao's lips. Both he and Nanning enjoy horseback riding. Nanning's pony is still being kept at the Gu family stable. Xinxiang suddenly pushed the door open. Beijiao. She wore a white gown with a pearlescent satin finish. This dress is a replica of the one Mrs. Gu wore for her engagement back in the day. Mrs. Gu came from an ordinary background. It was a beautiful romance sparked by Mr. Gu's heroic rescue of a damsel in distress. Even today, many people still fondly talk about it. Gu Beijiao's greatest pride in life was the deep love between his parents. Perhaps that was why, when he saved Xinxiang back then, he developed a special feeling for her. And now, Xinxiang stood before him as gentle and beautiful as a mother in an old photograph. Gu Beijiao's heart suddenly softened again, even if he had never considered taking things to the point of engagement or marriage with Xinxiang. But today, he would at least give her a perfect engagement ceremony. Gu Beijiao stood up and extended his hand to Xinxiang. Xinxiang gave a gentle smile, lifted her skirt hem, and walked over to him. I was worried because you were taking so long to come downstairs. It's fine, let's go now. Is everything taken care of on Yinyan's end? Gu Beijiao's gaze swept over the sapphire brooch on his chest. Nanning is unruly, while you have a gentle nature. From now on, let her stay in Hong Kong and forbid her from coming back. Xinxiang's heart suddenly leaped with joy, yet on the surface, he still wore a worried look. Wouldn't this be a bit inappropriate? Nanning has always been spoiled and willful. I wonder if she feels wrong being out there on her own. Gu Beijiao said indifferently. A little grievance will teach her to be sensible, Xinxiang said. No more. She docilely took his arm and went downstairs. It's 6 o'clock. Her engagement party is about to begin. Starting from today, she no longer has to live that kind of shabby life. No more living in a mixed bag of rented rooms. No longer having to share a tiny room with my 2 younger sisters. Her entire family would rise with her, like chickens and dogs ascending to heaven. Gu Beijiao was a gift from heaven. Her only chance to transcend social classes. She will cling to him tightly. I will never let go. 15. My wedding with Qin Yanzhou is set for half a month from now. Time is very tight. Fortunately, the Qin family placed great importance on the marriage of the eldest son and grandson. Preparations began many years in advance, so despite being busy, things have been progressing smoothly. Aunt Zhou told me, Qin Yanzhou had a serious illness when he was a child. After he recovered, the Qin family made a special trip to take him to pay homage to the White Dragon King. It is said that he will definitely get married in September of the year he turns 27. Your life will be smooth, healthy, and filled with great wealth and prosperity. The elders of the Qin family firmly believe in such things. When Aunt Zhou first brought up this marriage over the phone, the Qin family has also had my birth chart read. Qin Yanzhou and I are a perfect match in our birth charts, bound by fate as a destined union, so I agreed to the engagement. The entire Qin family was overjoyed. I received many precious welcome gifts. The most meaningful of all was a pair of jade bangles left by Qin Yanzhou's biological mother. When Qin Yanzhou handed it to me, I was deeply moved, yet also sad and guilty. The most fitting gift I could give him in return is the brooch that Mom gave to Dad, but now, it's still with Gu Beijiao. Perhaps she noticed my low spirits. Qin Yanzhou took me to the garden. Nanning, are you unhappy? He looked at me with some concern. The bracelet on her wrist held a pool of green. Even I, who know nothing about quality, can tell they're worth a fortune. Ever since I was a child, I've never been able to handle it when someone is kind to me. If they show me even a little kindness, I can't help but want to repay it tenfold, 100-fold. I mentally ran through the list of gifts I could give to Qin Yanzhou. I just feel like none of them are quite up to par, already feeling guilty and miserable inside, once again meeting Qin Yanzhou's gentle gaze. For some reason, when I decided to let go of Gu Beijiao for good, I didn't shed a tear. I didn't cry when I left Beijing, the city I had called home for 21 years. I didn't cry even when Gu Beijiao refused to return that brooch to me, but at that moment, tears suddenly streamed down my face. Qin Yanzhou was clearly panicking. He is a true gentleman through and through, a well-bred scion of an aristocratic family, but he clearly had no experience in sweet-talking girls. When he used a handkerchief to wipe my tears, he was clearly a bit clumsy. I laughed through my tears. Qin Yanzhou, you've smudged all my makeup. Are you wearing makeup? Isn't it obvious? Can't you see it? Qin Yanzhou said with a straight face. I thought you were just naturally beautiful like this. I admit that sometimes I'm really vain and shallow. And just like that, I was cheered up. Qin Yanzhou, you're so good at sweet-talking girls. Have you had a lot of girlfriends? does kindergarten count? My eyes widened instantly. You haven't dated anyone since growing up. If I said no, that would definitely be a lie. I had a girlfriend when I was studying abroad in college. We got together, but soon realized we weren't right for each other, so we parted ways amicably. Have you had anyone you liked since then? Qin Yanzhou paused for a few seconds. There was, unfortunately, she doesn't like me. I had a faint glimmer of understanding. I see, maybe it's just because the one he loves someone else. From that moment on, I sealed my heart and locked away my love, agreeing to this betrothal. For some reason, a sudden pang of bitterness welled up in my heart, but soon, I comforted myself again. That's fine too, at least I won't feel too guilty in my heart. The day I left the Qin family, Qin Yanzhou said to me, Nanine, I hope you truly see me as your future husband in your heart. I know you've always been independent and outstanding, but being dependent on once in a while also makes me very happy. I feel as if my heart has quietly opened up a little. Qin Yanzhou, I gave Qin Yanzhou a pair of cufflinks and a tie clip first. It's not particularly valuable, but it was something I designed and drew myself on a whim. This gift is pure, because when I designed it, it wasn't meant for Gu Beijiao. I just miss my mom and dad. Every stroke of the pencil is a trace of longing. 16. My wedding preparations are in full swing, but the Qin family never publicly revealed who the bride was. I just arrived at a new school and don't want to draw attention. Also, the matter between Gu Beijiao and me hasn't been fully resolved yet. Back when Gu Beijiao told me to continue my studies in Hong Kong City, it seems he had already made up his mind that I should not return to Beijing, so when the household staff started packing the luggage in advance, almost all of my belongings were packed and shipped to Harbor City, including all the gifts Gu Beijiao has given me over the past 10 years. Among them, there was an exceptionally expensive pink diamond ring. It was given to me by Gu Beijiao on my 18th birthday. True, I once cherished it like a treasure. Before, every time I was heartbroken, this ring never fails to put a smile on my face the moment I see it, because a gift like a ring always carries an extra layer of meaning compared to other accessories. But now, I've gradually come to understand, when someone has never liked you, or when his feelings for you are not pure, even if you have a marriage certificate between you, just like thin air, let alone these worldly possessions. As I sorted through each gift Gu Beijiao had given me, one by one, my heart was so calm that not even the slightest ripple stirred within it. In the end, the jewelry box was empty. My heart felt an unprecedented lightness. When organizing and packing it up for shipment, suddenly, a few WeChat messages popped up on my phone. It was from the staff at the horse farm. My pony is sick. It has been listless all day, refusing to eat its hay. My eyes instantly welled up when I saw the photo. The staff said the little horse must be missing me, because I go to see it every few days, but this time, I didn't go on time. I quickly called to ask about it. Miss Nanine, Mr. Gu happens to be here too, let him explain it to you. I was stunned for a moment, and then Gu Beijiao's voice came through clearly. Nanine, what did you say when we first got this pony? Have you forgotten already? Of course I didn't forget. Home-loving kids all have their own little pets, but the only requirement is that once you choose a pet, you must take full responsibility and take good care of it, never give up halfway. But wasn't it you who decided on going to Hong Kong for school 6 months ago? Southern music. Gu Beijiao suddenly let out a cold laugh. When have you ever listened? Haven't you always been good at making a scene and loved to cause trouble since you were little? Your parents love you so much, if you shed even a single tear, they won't have the heart to let you go. At the end of the day, you don't really care that much about your pony. At that moment, Gu Beijiao's heart suddenly skipped a beat. It was as if he had suddenly heard his own unspoken words. Nanine, in truth, didn't really care that much about him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have actually gone to Hong Kong. He wouldn't remain indifferent upon learning of his engagement. He wouldn't actually skip the engagement party. No, I want the brooch she gave me with her own hands. 17. I'll make time to go back and see it, if possible. I can also bring it to Hong Kong City. Are you planning to never return to Beijing for the rest of your life? A sudden note of anger crept into Gu Beijiao's voice. I lowered my head and smiled. It's not out of the question. Yes, I'm going to marry into Hong Kong City. Naturally, the focus of life will shift here from now on, but there was no need to tell Gu Beijiao about any of this. Nanine, you're still so mischievous and childish. You haven't improved at all. Gu Beijiao's voice grew colder and colder. You'd better not regret this. Nanine. Regret what? Shinxiang and I are already engaged. The wedding date is being finalized, and then, Nanine, don't tell me you don't understand. If I really married Shinxiang, I smiled with relief and lightness. Brother Beijiao, I sincerely wish you both the best, truly. On the other end of the phone, Gu Beijiao suddenly fell silent. Without waiting for him to say anything more, I gently hung up the phone. At 16, a girl's heart begins to stir with first love. From then on, it was unstoppable. I was stubborn and refused to call him brother anymore. Now, nearly 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye. He finally returned to the most rightful place from the very beginning. I don't hate him, nor do I resent him. After all these years of being together day and night, I sincerely wish him well. 18, I called Uncle Gu. After greeting him and Aunt Gu, only then did she tactfully bring up the matter of that brooch. Uncle Gu, I was young and ignorant back then, and I made quite a few embarrassing mistakes. Looking back now, I always feel regret and shame. Since Brother Beijiao is already engaged, I think it's best to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. Uncle Gu let out a sigh over the phone. Enin, your uncle has always liked you and cared for you deeply. Actually, I've always wanted you to be my daughter-in-law. Your aunt can't even mention your name these days without tearing up. I feel terrible too, but this discomfort is simply because of the genuine love and care the two elders have for me. Uncle, you can't force matters of the heart. I'm sorry you had to go through this, Enin. Uncle, I'm not upset. I've come to terms with it and let it go. Uncle will go get that brooch back for you. In a few days, your aunt and I are going to Hong Kong for a wedding. I'll give you the brooch myself when the time comes. I thanked him and hung up. The staff member handling the check-in of valuables had also arrived by then. The wrapped gift boxes were loaded into the vehicle by the staff. It will be safely delivered to Gu Beijiao's hands in a few days. In a few days, Uncle Gu and his family will be arriving in Hong Kong. When the sapphire brooch was returned to me, the follies of our youth, this is the final full stop. From now on, our paths diverge in life's vast north and south. You head to the misty rivers of Xiaxiang, while I journey toward the rugged lands of Qin. 19 Gu Beijiao got drunk again at a friend's gathering. As he came out of the restroom, just overheard Tanning on the phone. Aw babe, I'm heading to Hong Kong tomorrow. You promised I'd be your only maid of honor. By the way, did you handpick the best man? What, you picked 7 groomsmen to accompany me? Oh my god, Enin, I love you to bits, baby. Gu Beijiao stood in the long, empty corridor. Tan Ying's joyful voice seemed to still echo in his ears, but in the end, only that one word Enin remained. He thought he was really drunk. Why else would he hear such an absurd joke? Yes, he was really drunk. That's why he was having auditory hallucinations. Perhaps he just missed Nanning. Only then would they mishear someone's name as southern music. Gu Beijiao suddenly staggered over and said, Tanning, who had just ended the call, was startled. Gu Beijiao, who were you on the phone with just now? Gu Beijiao stared intently into Tan Ying's eyes. I heard you're going to Harbor City for a wedding, and I also caught the name Nanning. His handsome face was now slightly twisted, but those eyes, once so flirtatious and amorous, were now bloodshot red. He smiled, but the smile was cold and sinister. Don't tell me you're going to Nanning's wedding. Tanning was initially frightened by his appearance, but by then, she had already caught on how the tables have turned over the years. How many times has she fumed and wept over Nanning? How relieved she felt at that moment. So the esteemed young master of the Gu family has fallen to this. Has he? He doesn't enjoy toying with other people's true feelings? Doesn't he enjoy watching those who love him get all anxious and insecure? He will surely have countless opportunities to taste such a flavor in the days to come, but Tanning wouldn't tell him the truth. Nanning won't let her speak, so she won't say a word. She wasn't foolish enough to let Gu Beijiao know and go to Hong Kong to cause a scene. It was the happiest day of her dearest friend's entire life. There was no way she would let that unlucky jerk ruin it. You misheard. I'm going to Hong Kong for a wedding, and I'm going with Nanning. It's just that the ones getting married are our former classmates. Gu Beijiao seemed skeptical. I haven't heard of Nanning having any close classmates in Hong Kong. Tanning smiled. Gu Beijiao, have you ever truly cared about Nanning? Have you ever really taken the time to understand her? Have you ever cared about her, considered her feelings, or put yourself in her shoes? Gu Beijiao, you don't have it at all. You have no idea how amazing Nanning is. You don't deserve her years of affection at all. Tanning finished speaking and turned away. Gu Beijiao watched her retreating figure. A faint ache suddenly stirred in his heart, yet he didn't know why he felt this way. He just suddenly felt an urgent, overwhelming urge. I want to see Nanning, even if it's just to meet once. But the very next day, Gu Beijiao received a large parcel shipped from Hong Kong. That's why it was received so quickly. It was Qin Yanzhou who had the Qin family's freight Company arranged an express private jet to deliver it to the capital. I was in the midst of a tense and exciting wedding rehearsal, had no idea about any of this. 20 When Gu Beijiao opened those boxes, my hands are trembling for no reason. At first, the things inside looked a bit unfamiliar, but gradually overwhelming memories came flooding in like a tidal wave. The first Hermes bag he ever gave to Nanine, the first pearl necklace I gave her, the key to the first car. The box was filled to the brim with colorful gemstones. In the end, it was that pink diamond ring. Gu Beijiao held the small pink box in his hands. Suddenly, my vision blurred. Beijiao, when are you planning to marry that little child bride of yours? Back then, friends would often tease him and Nanine with a laugh. He is young, unruly, and arrogantly self-conceited. So many girls are chasing after him, but none of them catch his eye. At 18, Nanine was as beautiful and delicate as a ripe peach, utterly charming. He took her out to have fun, drawing envy from countless people. He was secretly immensely pleased with himself, because of such beautiful Nanine music. I only love him. At that time, he intended to marry her. To be precise, he had known for a long time that he would marry her someday, so he gave her that pink diamond ring. But when did he start growing tired of Nanine? Since when did the sudden arrival start beating the childhood sweetheart? All this shows that he truly has no feelings for her anymore, or was it simply because he was certain she would never leave him? Gu Beijiao clenched the ring tightly in his hand. Suddenly, I absurdly burst into tears. 21 At that time, I was busy with the final rehearsal before the wedding. Of course, I don't know. Gu Beijiao saw all the gifts, big and small, from the past decade, especially that pink diamond ring, which I treasure like a precious gem. What kind of reaction is it? Halfway through the rehearsal, the first time Qin Yanzhou kissed me, I had no idea Gu Beijiao, because of that ring, would slap Shenxiang hard across the face. How ridiculous. That day, Shenxiang knelt down to frame me. When Gu Beijiao pushed me away, I scraped my knee. None of us expected that. There will be such a day, won't there? But Gu Beijiao and Shenxiang, they are already insignificant people in my life. I couldn't care less anymore. 22 When Uncle Gu brought the brooch to me, I also told my parents the good news that I'm getting married soon. They were all surprised. Because of the wedding, they came to Hong Kong for this time, and it was precisely the Qin family who arranged the wedding for their eldest son and grandson, and this one has always been extremely mysterious. The bride-to-be that even the notoriously sharp Hong Kong media couldn't snap a single photo of. It turned out to be me. They were happy for me, yet tears of regret fell, especially Aunt Gu. She held my hand tightly, refusing to let go. Nanine, I don't want to cry on your happy day, but I truly can't let this go. It's my fault. I failed to raise my son properly. So much so that one misstep led to another. Gu Beijiao was going to break up with Shenxiang, but Shenxiang flatly refused. Shenxiang's entire family also came to the Gu residence to make a scene. He even threatened to stay and never leave. After all, they have nothing to lose. Just as the two were in the midst of a huge fight, as luck would have it, Shenxiang found out she was pregnant. The Gu family couldn't bring themselves to make the girl get an abortion. Their marriage was probably about to be finalized. I leaned against Aunt Gu's embrace, my eyes reddening as well. Thinking back to when I first arrived at the Gu family, I cried every night, longing for my parents. Scenes of Aunt Gu holding and soothing me, thinking back to those carefree days, the time when I was cherished by them as if I were their own daughter. In the end, tears still fell. Nanine, it is Beijiao that is not blessed with fortune. Aunt Gu wiped away my tears, letting out a sigh, yet filled with immense relief. The Qin family is renowned for its strong family values, and Qin Yanzhou stands out as one of the most exceptional figures among the new generation in Hong Kong. Nanine, you will surely find happiness. 23 I know a man as gentle and refined as Qin Yanzhou. Even if he doesn't love me, I will still have a happy married life, but I never saw it coming. Happiness hit me several times harder than I ever imagined. The moment I pinned that sapphire brooch on Qin Yanzhou, he showed me a photo. In the photo, I'm holding the trophy, my eyes crinkling into crescent moons as I beamed brightly toward a certain direction off stage, and Qin Yanzhou stood right beside me, smiling as he looked at me. That year's grand horse racing event, when I won the championship, the person presenting me with the award was none other than Qin Yanzhou. But back then, my heart and eyes were filled with nothing but Gu Beijiao. I only gave him a quick glance. All that is known is that he is an exceptionally young and handsome man, who could have imagined the fate that would follow. I laughed and cried like a child, pointing at the two of us in the photo, but couldn't utter a single word. Qin Yanzhou embraced me from behind. Remember I told you I once had someone I liked? He touched the brooch, resting his chin against my neck and gently nuzzling it. Nanine, I said to myself in my heart, the moment I receive that sapphire brooch is when I'll tell you. The one I have feelings for is you, 24. As a teenage girl, I was absolutely obsessed with romance novels. There is a very common term used to describe the male protagonist, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Actually, it's a backhanded compliment, but I never expected a man like Qin Yanzhou. He has a beastly side beneath his gentlemanly facade. On his wedding day, he stood tall and graceful, with finely arched brows and striking eyes. He carries an extraordinary aura, as pure and majestic as snow-capped mountains, but when it came to the wedding night, take off the Grimm's outfit, yet he too had become a beast. That was the first time I had ever heard so many burning sweet nothings, the first time someone called me BB over and over again in Cantonese. For the first time, I was coaxed into going along with those embarrassing positions. The first time, crying when it hurt, and crying when it felt good. For the first time, I knew the taste of love, savored joy, spent the whole night in folly, and never felt weary. Then, on the second day of being a bride, she slept until the sun was high in the sky at noon, while I was still sound asleep in bed. Qin Yanzhou, however, had already finished his morning run, daily workout, morning tea, newspaper reading, news listening, and so on, all with great energy. Several days after the wedding, the household servant just told me with a smile, "Oh, madam, you have no idea how much Mr. Qin was smiling that day." Yeah. In all my years with the Qin family, this is the first time I've seen Mr. Qin talk so much in a single morning. He greets everyone he meets, even my little grandson. I think the gentleman can't wait to carry a loudspeaker around with him, just to announce to the whole world that he's married and how much he adores his bride. Embarrassed yet amused, I made an excuse and quickly slipped away into the garden. From a distance, I saw Qin Yanzhou's car pulling into the gate. He got out of the car, after handing the briefcase and coat to the servant, looked over in my direction immediately. Qin Yanzhou, I stood among the flowers, laughing and jumping as I waved at him. My little pony was delivered to Harbor City yesterday. Qin Yanzhou personally handled this matter. It was well taken care of throughout the journey and showed no signs of discomfort. Yesterday when I saw it, it happily circled around me. Qin Yanzhou smiled at me, so I smiled back. He parted the lush green foliage in front of him and walked toward me. And as he walked toward me, I had already run to his side. He stopped in his tracks and shook his head helplessly, but had already opened their arms. He held me tightly as I threw myself into his arms. The end. Extra 1. Gu Beizhao only found out that Nanning was getting married on the day of her wedding. At first, he didn't believe it at all, even laughably thought the so-called wedding was nothing more than a play directed and performed by Nanning herself, just like his engagement to Shinxiang. It doesn't really mean anything substantial. But then a friend sent over a photo from Nanning's grand wedding, when he saw Nanning standing beside her groom in a white bridal gown, when he saw his parents also seated in the VIP section, when he saw Tanning standing beside Nanning in a bridesmaid dress, so overwhelmed with emotion that her makeup was ruined from crying, as the handsome and noble groom kissed the bride, as the bride shed tears of joy and happiness, Gu Beizhao suddenly heard a deafening crash as something collapsed deep within his heart. He felt dazed, as if he couldn't hear what his friends were saying. The only thing echoing in his ears was that one sentence: Nanning got married. Nanning is now someone else's bride, but wasn't he the one she had always liked since childhood? Hadn't her greatest wish always been to marry him and become his bride? On her 18th birthday, she gave him the most meaningful brooch with her own hands. They had made a promise, after all, and if he had no feelings for her at all, how could he have put up with her fooling around by his side all these years? Actually, it can't really be called fooling around, to be fair, he has been despicably exploiting Nanning all along. I was young and loved to have fun back then, a well-born, wealthy, handsome young master who spends money like water. There are always plenty of beautiful girls who actively try to latch onto me. He reveled in their admiration, pursuit, rivalry, and jealousy, yet he was fully aware that he was just playing around and would never get serious. Nanning once said he had been in 4 relationships, all of which ended because of her crying and making a scene, but she didn't actually know that he had never dated any of those girls. After a few days of flirtation, once boredom sets in, it's only natural to want to shake them off, but back then, he was a dashing and romantic young master. How could he ever play the villain? So the little sister he grew up with at home naturally became the perfect tool. He deliberately had someone instigate Nanning. Nanning was so young back then, so delicate and naive. Gu Yunhe or someone else might have embellished the story. She charged over like a firecracker. As for him, he was so annoyed that he had no choice but to say, "Let's break up." Yet a secret joy began to sprout in my heart. He seems to really enjoy watching Nanine get jealous. I love seeing her cry her eyes out over the swarm of admirers buzzing around him, so cute yet so pitiful, but she was also very easy to appease. All he needs to do is say a few gentle words and give her some small gifts, accompany her in every little thing she wants to do, she will cheer up right away. He thought this time would be the same. He thought that no matter how grave his mistake was, he could always easily coax Nanine into calming down. She lost her parents and came to the Gu family as a child. Where else could she go? My parents would never feel at ease if I got married. Everyone took it for granted that they would eventually get married, even if he impulsively got engaged to Shinxiang. But now, Nanine has gotten married. She has a husband, a partner to share her bed. He no longer deserved to stand by her side. Extra 2, on the day Nanine and her husband Qin Yanzhou returned to her parents' home, Gu Beizhao had just had a huge fight with Shinxiang. He moved out of the apartment they shared. He decided to cut ties with Shinxiang completely. When his friend sent him that video from the hotel hallway, it suddenly dawned on him. It turned out that from the very beginning, his relationship with Shinxiang was built on scheming, a seemingly innocent little white flower, but with a venomous heart. He dared not recall the scenes of that day. I dare not imagine how wronged and heartbroken Nanine must have felt at that moment. He wished he could go back to that day, wished he could strangle that pathetic version of himself with his own hands. He had spent 15 years with Nanine, day and night. Why was he so crazed back then that he refused to believe her? It all started from that very moment. On that day, he completely lost Nanine. He lost her for good. So now, as Nanine's husband took her hand and led her into the living room, his eyes immediately fell on the sapphire brooch pinned to Nanine's husband's chest. In that instant, his heart felt as if pierced by 10,000 needles. That dense, pervasive pain was overwhelming, inescapable, but he forced himself to keep his composure. He quietly and silently followed behind his parents, lurking in wait for her current happiness. He didn't say a single word that day. He didn't even dare to take another look at Nanine. The hands resting on the knees had long been clenched into tight fists, almost piercing through the flesh of the palm, but he seemed completely oblivious to the pain. He was actually a little proud of himself. How could he maintain that peaceful smile from beginning to end, until the very end? When Nanine was about to leave, he only then realized that his face was about to freeze stiff. As Nanine was leaving, she called out to him. She called him brother, just like she did when she first came to their home as a child. He heard it clearly and saw it plainly. Nanine truly had no romantic feelings left for him at all. That was the last thing she said to him that day. Brother, I hope you can be as happy as I am in the future. He nodded, but inside, he was laughing bitterly. He couldn't tell her. Extra 3, after breaking up with Shinxiang, the entire Gu family was swept into a humiliating and disgraceful scandal. Shinxiang found out she was pregnant. Her parents couldn't bring themselves to make the girl have an abortion, so they had no choice but to compromise once again, but he adamantly refused to have the child, and he also rejected Shinxiang. He cannot accept the woman who will be his future wife and the mother of his children. He was full of scheming from the very first meeting. So-called hero saving the damsel in distress, the so-called reenactment of parental love. It's all fake, every bit of it. It was merely a carefully orchestrated scheme by Shinxiang to climb the ranks. He forced Shinxiang to abort the child. Shinxiang refused, but he was too resolute in his attitude. Shinxiang actually moved in with her parents and family. Gu Beizhao had never seen such a low-life street thug before. They are impervious to reason, throwing tantrums and stopping at nothing. The Gu family is a scholarly household. Their parents cannot afford to lose face over someone like this. He can't even call the police, couldn't handle it anymore, so I just gave them money to make them go away, but those people had tasted the sweetness and were even less willing to let go easily. They are like leeches, like vampires, like parasites clinging to the bone, like a nightmare from which you never wake up. Gu Beizhao was utterly exhausted by Shinxiang and her family's antics. Meanwhile, Shinxiang's belly was growing bigger day by day. He finally decided to tear off that fig leaf with his own hands. When the police arrived at the Gu residence and drove those ruffians and scoundrels out, Shinxiang seemed to realize that she had no chance of winning. She asked for a huge sum of money. The day the cards were laid on the table, Gu Beizhao felt as if he was meeting Shinxiang for the first time. Cold, mercenary, greedy, twisted, her beautiful face was utterly hideous. When he gave the money to Shinxiang, he suddenly felt like laughing at himself, laughing at my own foolishness and naivety. Everything that seemed so ordinary in my youth, the daily companionship of youth, will fade and lose its novelty. But a real man can resist the temptation of fresher flowers. He can also nourish his beloved, making her more radiant and blooming with each passing day, and he, without a doubt, is a complete and utter bastard. Later, Nani's husband also sent her pony to Harbor City. By the time he arrived at the stable, the pony had already been taken away, only his horses left, standing alone in the stable. Gu Beizhao let it out, he swung onto his horse and galloped into the wind, round and round, tirelessly. In the end, he closed his eyes in the wind and let go of the reins. He broke his leg but didn't die. My parents wept bitterly by the bedside, utterly heartbroken. It was as if Gu Beizhao had truly grown up and matured in that very moment. Despite the excruciating pain, he comforted his parents. He pondered the rest of his life. We can't keep going on like this, being so absurd. Xinxiang had just had an abortion not long ago, sentenced to prison for extortion. Also imprisoned were Xinxiang's father and younger brother, who had been the most vocal troublemakers at the time. The remaining members of the Shen family quickly dispersed like a receding tide. They received some money earlier. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. Once they took the money and went back to their hometown, Xinxiang and the others' fate was no longer their concern. Only Xinxiang's mother was troubled by the imprisonment of her only son, Yaozu. I've cried my eyes out, and I hate Xinxiang to death. These old acquaintances and bygone tales from distant Beijing, like the fading ink on an ancient painting, a new life that belongs to Nanin, like a brand new scroll, slowly unfurling. End of extra chapter.